thinking is we broaden the grassroots movement. And I would also like to say that in the States, Vicki Finlayson, if you remember her, here was a lady who couldn't walk from her living room to her kitchen. She gets on LDN, she gets her life back. She walks 53 miles to the steps of Capitol Hill to personally address Arnold Schwarzenegger to tell him about this wonderful drug. And the media are following her, and we're all following her in the chat rooms. Go Vicky, right? So she does this amazing 53-mile walk, and Arnie doesn't acknowledge her. He wasn't in that day or something. It was just a horrible ending. But, you know, she didn't give up. She's actually getting back on those steps this coming Wednesday, and with the media in tow again and doing the whole thing. That's the kind of dedication and things we need to be doing. Somehow, in order to get a big enough database that will be taken seriously, we have to expand the patient base and the doctor's base and somehow work together to coordinate our data. Because a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, I don't think is ever going to work, or is it even applicable to low-dose naltrexone, because to give anybody a placebo instead of LDN, we would have to agree is actually unethical. That's why I think that the template that aspirin has provided is our best course forward, is funding, right? Everything comes down to funding. So we need cash. And I think the best way to invest what we have in our time and energy, because no matter how much cash we have, it's not enough for the research that's needed. There's 100 years left of research easily, and that's just with Dr. Zagon and low-dose naltrexone. We can't afford to fund a large-scale trial, right? But what we could do is, using PR, expand our grassroots and then open the wallets of people who actually can afford research and trials. So given our limited base, which we're still very limited, and we still have very serious credibility issues, but we do have a lot of determination and spirit, and I'm thinking that the best way to use that energy is, number one, expand our grassroots, and number two, use that grassroots to open bigger wallets. And I like the idea of that in the UK of approaching the government. I like Vicki Finlayson trying to get the attention of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think we should all approach our local media, our local politicians, and just keep on talking until everybody needs an aspirin. You know, let's just never shut up, because that's how we're going to get there. It's by saying it over and over, just telling the truth, just saying, this is the most amazing medical discovery since penicillin. And that is saying that today, before we even, I think that we've really only touched the surface of what low-dose naltrexone will actually do in the future. But if we could get the government on board, that would be a good one, and get all of our data together in a database. That doesn't sound that complicated. That is my vision. I used to think that initially that what we should do is campaign to change the patent laws on drugs, so that if a pharmaceutical company came up with a new use for an old drug, they would reap the benefits. And then I thought, you know, this is just rotten. I don't want any part of this. To heck with the greed. I don't want to feed the greed. So I gave up on that, even though, I mean, campaigning to change the patent laws, I mean, what? I'd be like 192 before anybody even knew I existed. And you see, there's FDA approved and there's quackery, right? But in the middle, there is patient evidence-based medicine that is stuck in the system. We do have the information, we just don't have it gathered properly. And that's why I think the database, my only thing is, do we need the university first to design the data? You know, what comes first here? Recruiting a university? Like Brendan, you were saying, you and Phil going to Trinity and saying, hey lads, give us some of your PhD guys to investigate this based on your results from your pharmacy in Ireland. Phase one is published. She's in the middle of phase two, and now she's got kids on board and everything. She's really pushing it back. And she's helping the HIV trial in Malai, because everything is related here. You know, if one camp can get forward, we're all that step ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mary. This has been a very good conference in the sense that it has gone in a lot of different directions that we haven't gone in before, and I think that's fabulous. I would say to each and every one of you to please continue your discussion at the reception outside in the reception area, same place we had lunch, and continue on this same path. What we should look for in the future. My personal thoughts, this is the last conference I will be coordinating of this nature. My efforts are going to be directed toward raising money for the Emory James Sedlock Foundation. It named for my father. It is to raise money for clinical trials. Clearly we need them. Clearly we need the database. We have a new website that most of you registered through. It's called www.projectldn.com. Malcolm West, a wonderful person who had hoped to be here at the conference but could not get over here. He resides in Pennsylvania, developed that website. That is what he does by trade, and perhaps he can help us with a database. Perhaps he can help us with a lot of other things. I will be looking to raise money for clinical trials for LDN. I'm working to get 501c3 status for the Emory James Sedlock Foundation. Once that is there, I will be shouting from the rooftops to everyone that we have that, because I think that will help us greatly in our fundraising efforts. I think we should continue this discussion. It's just getting started. This type of a conference, this is my last effort, but certainly not my last LDN effort. I think we need to shift gears and go in a different direction to get the job done. And you all have been very enthusiastic, and we're over time, we're overdue. I've been standing up here not because I didn't want questions and answers, but because simply we are running out of time. But what I would suggest is that we definitely stay tuned to www.projectldn.com, because further announcements will be coming, and will be a great way for us to be in touch with each other and move this project forward. Thank you again for coming. Please continue the discussion at the reception.